Hello there and welcome back to Nova Drift. Today we are going to focus on the new shield, the shockwave shield. I guess we'll grab the thermal lance. Out of all of this weapon it's probably the best choice. We'll be ditching it later on anyway. And here's the shockwave shield. So basically how it works, it generates pulses that push away enemies and projectiles every couple of seconds or 1.5 seconds, something like that. And when it recharges after a cooldown, it creates a big shockwave that deals 120 damage. We can boost that relatively high to about 400-500 damage and make it a screen-wide effect. For the body we take the Sentinel, for the shield boosts. And let's see how it goes. As you can see, this is the pulse that pushes away enemies. And this will be the shockwave. If I manage to cool down the shields. Oh my god, I am going to die in a moment. Shields, please. And that was the shockwave. Okay, so let's maybe kill the boss and not die. The thermal lance have a pretty high DPS on its own because of the vulnerability stacking. Ataraxia is a possibility in this build. I don't think I'm going to grab it just yet. I want to focus first on the essential mods like the cooldown reduction and such, bravado, obviously better shields. We don't want to increase our shield durability because we want it to break as much as possible. Let's grab volatile shields, effect radius. So already the pulse is relatively big. We can make it even bigger than that. We will probably take this charge just so we can explode our shield without crashing into things. So let's just do it. Flash shielding. Obsession is a possibility with galvanic outburst and energized shields, I believe. But I mean, it would decrease our maximum shields as well, so it's nice, but I don't know really if we should be taking that. Sure, let's try it, why not? We won't be taking that many wild mods anyway. Okay, so Radiant Shield, it increases the effect radius, which basically means that our shockwave will be a screen-wide effect, but it lowers the shield cooldown. This is bad, but we can work around it with the energized shield, so it should be fine. We are going to need the streamline for the Tempest Break, but we will also need the hull tree just to increase our survivability when we have no shields. Efficiency, also another one for the 20% faster shield cooldown. But for now I think I want to focus on the Tempest break as fast as possible. So the weaponized shields, because things inside of our shields will take 20% increased damage, and this will be very useful for volatile shields. And yeah, like I wanted to say, volatile shields will be used mostly for bosses and high health enemies, simply because the shockwave itself won't be enough. It doesn't do enough damage. Shockwave will be used just for clearing trash on the screen. While kinetic boost and Aegis doesn't really do much for us, we want emergency systems just to add that survivability when our shields break, and they will break a lot. Hidden power, this is definitely something we want. Not sure if we want it straight away. We don't have Tempest break yet. But let's see, we have flash shielding. We're pretty close to Tempest break, so I guess we will grab it. It is something that we need. And we do have discharge to deal with some enemies. Fortunately, we got the terrible enemy of the swarm. I really hate when you get those early on. They can be very difficult to deal with. Okay, so what do we have here? This, while it would increase our shield effect power, it decreases the radius, and I want the explosion to be as big as possible. Celestial Lance is another possibility for breaking the shield instead of the discharge, but I think the discharge is the better option. So what do we have here? Aegis, adaptive armor. This will the channeling will improve our shield effect power, and we can generate stacks with discharge, so it will be useful. Now, what do I want? Do I want to start the regeneration? Because this will be useful for us. I suppose you could maybe go for Essence Sap instead. Yeah, but I think I'm gonna grab Aegis just to get the emergency systems ASAP. Okay, and for... not sure if Terminate works with the shockwave. I haven't really tested that, but we will need basically those 3 mods to improve our survivability when the shields are down. And the shockwave already is a screen-wide effect. So this is very nice. Okay, streamline, so we can take the Tempest break. I think we got everything for the Tempest break. Yeah, the streamline and plus shielding. But let's grab the efficiency right now. This will increase our cooldown and we can explode a lot more. Eclipse is a difficult enemy to deal with, especially early on with this build, because you basically have to use your volatile shields to kill it. Fortunately, we do have emergency systems already, so it's not as dangerous as it could be otherwise. Here we have the Tempest break. It's 30% faster shield cooldown, 30% shield effect power. It also makes us invulnerable to the cooldown, like the cooldown cannot be interrupted. However, the cooldown only starts when the shield breaks, so we have to be breaking our shield as much as possible, and for that we will mostly be crashing into enemies, and this is pretty much why we want the emergency systems as well, so that when we crash we don't instantly die by hitting the enemy with our hull. Instead we will just safely pass through them or bounce back without taking any further damage. Still, we want some regeneration, so when our hull gets damage, and it will get damage, so that we can recover it. It's 4.3 per second, that's pretty good. It will get better as our hull increases. Yeah, and the big shockwave also have a even bigger effect on the... Whew, yeah, that's why you want to improve your hull and your regeneration, because you will be taking damage every now and then, just like we did there. And this is also why you want adaptive armor and the channeling later on as well. So the shockwave nearly reached the other side of the screen, as we were right here. So it will... okay, so here's another energized shields. This will be 20% faster shield cooldown in total. So we are at 3.7 right now, and this is 359. It's not a big upgrade, but it helps. So yeah, like I said before, for bosses you have to rely nearly entirely on the volatile shields, as the shockwave doesn't do nearly enough damage to kill bosses or juggernauts or other high health enemies. Galvanic Outburst. This will also give us the discharge bolts and the shield effect power when we crash into enemies. This is a good addition, I suppose. We have to be careful because we do have obsession, so we don't want to be reducing our hull and shields too much. Well, the shields actually we could have 1 point of shield and that would be fine, but we don't want to reduce our hull too much. So we'll grab this, but it will probably be our final wild mode. Maybe we'll grab energized shields again, but I don't think we'll be grabbing the galvanic outburst anymore. So yeah, it looks like our pulse is already doing nearly 500 damage. It's like 471, I believe. So this is pretty good already. And we are, I think, nearing the completion of the mods that we require for this build, so we will be grabbing Ataraxia relatively soon. Because let's see, we still want Absorption and Force Armor. Juggernaut is also fine, it will reduce our thrust. But other than that, I think we have mostly everything for the shield mods that we want. We could be grabbing Defiance for the plating, but one plating won't really do much for us, and other stats are not really useful. Core shielding, it will decrease our discharge damage to the shields, which is not great, but it will increase the stack duration and give us 5 hull, 5 shields. You can take it, you can leave it. I think I will grab it just for the increased stack duration. Let's see the... So it is 2 seconds. No, it decays after 2 seconds. I'm not sure actually what is the duration of the armor stacks. Maybe let's just leave it. Let's take Absorption because that's free plating and this will help us survive those rapid fire weapons when we have no shields. This is nice, we pretty much cleared the entire screen of enemies. Let's see. Energize shields again. How many mods do we have? 7. So this will be over 10% reduction in our maximum hull, and we are at 113 right now. I think we can maybe grab one more, and that puts us below 3.5. So I think this will... Whoa, we nearly died there. This is something that the emergency systems can do to you. If you get stuck inside of an enemy, you can die really fast there. We are pretty lucky with it, but that could have ended badly. Okay, so there's force armor, and I think this will possibly be the final upgrade, and after that we will go for ataraxia. Because we have efficiency, I think we have all the cooldown reduction mods. All of the shield effect power and radius. I mean, you can go with Candescence and Purification as well for healing from your discharge. But I would rather go for Ataraxia now. Just to increase our shockwave as much as possible, and it will also increase our total hull. Yeah, because I mean, Terminate, I don't know if it works with the shockwave. If it does, then Terminate and Blitz would be great. However, it takes that it's total weapon damage and crash damage, and I don't think this counts as a weapon damage. So I believe this is only increased by shield effect power and global damage increase. So I don't think it would trigger Terminate. I mean, we could trigger it by crashing into enemies, but maybe this isn't exactly what we want to be doing. Warbringer might be a difficult boss to deal with, since it does have a lot of health. It seems to be dying relatively fast. Okay, wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. We are still at only 2 upgrades. I like how this pulse is just pushing away projectiles from you. This might as well be good for the Omni Shield build, like I said before, because here we aren't really utilizing the pulses. In a Omni Shield build, you would have your shield up all the time, so you could benefit from the pulse at all times and push those projectiles away from you. yeah, the enemies start getting pretty tanky at this point, and I think this is the ataraxia is pretty much required here at later waves, because otherwise you won't be able to kill anything. Okay, we are at 4, so one more and we'll start rerolling, because I'm not actually sure if having 4 is enough for ataraxia to show up, or do you have to have 5? And I don't really want to waste rerolls if ataraxia isn't going to show up. Okay, let's look, and there is the ataraxia, and I guess that would be pretty much it. I do wonder how effective this will be against Seraph, because we will have to kill it with volatile shields. What wave are we at? 95, so Seraph is right around the corner. And the Celestials can be annoying as well. But I really like how this shockwave just clears all the trash enemies from the entire screen. So let's see, is there anything else? Well, of course there is Slipstream, actually, that you can increase your global damage with. However, because we have Obsession, this might not be the best idea. Let's see, Ataraxia gives us 1%, and Obsession reduces it by 1.25. They both are total maximum hull, so this is multiplicative, I believe, both of those. We're gonna leave it for now as is. I don't think we want any other. I mean, we could take conversion to reduce our maximum shields and improve our hull. It's not necessary, I suppose. And like I said, it will be difficult to deal with Seraph because just of how much health he have. And our Tempest Break barely does anything to him. And I think if we get hit by all 4 railguns while we have no shields, then it will probably one-shot us. Okay, and the Seraph is dead. It's pretty nice. Did he die from the shockwave? It was strange. It seemed like he took a lot more damage than he should. I'll have to watch this on the footage later on to see what happened there exactly. But yes, we are dealing about 600, 700 damage sometimes from the shockwave. This is pretty high damage for a screen-wide effect. And I understand why it was nerfed, because when it was about 200 damage, base damage, you could easily get that to over 1000 damage from the shockwave. So at this point it's mostly just crash into enemies to explode and then wait for your shield to recharge and explode again. I mean, this pretty much is the build. That's what its point is. I suppose it's pretty much a shield breaker build, but with a different shield. I don't remember what kind of shield we used in our shield breaker build. It might have been AMP, just because it have a low shield points. But AMP doesn't really increase your damage from the Tempest Break or Volatile Shields, while this synergizes very well with Tempest Break. I was playing around with the carrier, which is the new body that is available in this patch. However, I haven't really found a build for it yet. I think I will try doing some kind of shield tank build with it. Probably with Halo Shield, because in my testing the swarm doesn't really do damage. I mean, the base damage on the swarm is 4, I think. which isn't really great. And since the swarm... Where am I? Okay. And since the swarm is a bit buggy right now, and it often stays outside of its weapon range. Not sure if I talked about this before. I mean, I know I did, but I don't know if it was in an uploaded video or in one of my test runs that got scrapped after I failed to... Well, basically, in one of my failed runs, I think I talked about this, but yeah, the swarm is a bit bugged where it sometimes, or even very often, it will just stay at a distance higher than their weapon range, and they will basically shoot at nothing, which makes things very difficult to kill with the swarm. And when I tried to do a swarm/drone build, the damage wasn't great either. So I think it would have to be a kind of burn build. I don't know if you can go hidden power and keep your drones, keep your swarm. Because if you can, you could... this could be a very good Omni-Shield burn build with the Halo. But I'm imagining that you can't have your swarm and have hidden power, since the swarms are constructs and hidden power does disable constructs. I would also want to make some kind of thermal lance build where I use it as my main weapon instead of the mines, like in the Disco Inferno build. I think I would use the assault body for the increased fire rate, and just try and make the thermal lance as big as possible. I did a bunch of testing with it for the siege weaponry, and oh my god, can you just go away? So many Celestials, and there's another one. Jesus. Yeah, I did some testing with thermal lance and siege weaponry with charge shot and rancor, because surprisingly enough it works very well together. I mean, the charge shot works differently on the thermal lance, as you just... it's a channeled weapon, so even with charge shots you keep continuously firing it. It just gets bigger and bigger over time. So you can actually use it with siege weaponry for a continuous fire with it, and with Rancor it works in the way that siege weaponry self-damage charges the Rancor, so you can get into a pretty crazy sizes of thermal lance. However, the issue there is that you start draining your health really fast and really rapidly. And ideally you never want to let go of your trigger when oh well. Yeah, and that's pretty much what I were talking about before, that even with emergency systems you still have to be really careful and try not to take damage like that. I mean, it's pretty obvious really. But yeah, I think it was a pretty successful build anyway. We didn't get that far, wave 160 only. But if you focus on the game instead of talking about different builds, I'm sure you can get past wave 200 with it. So yeah, I hope you guys liked it, and see you later.